Hello, and welcome to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, brought to you as always by InsideThePenguins.com. And Horwat, I am irrationally excited for today, Thursday, September 15th, because at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, the Pittsburgh Penguins, their rookies have you, but the Pittsburgh Penguins will take the ice for an official practice at UPMC Lemieux Complex in Cranberry, Pennsylvania. I don't know the postal code, but I would say it. I'm irrationally excited that starting today and from now on, there are organized team activities and there are going to be stories coming out of the Pittsburgh Penguins organization every single day until next June. It is finally back. I'm deeming it finally back. Hockey season is here.
It is here. And do you want the exact address of the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex? Because it is 8000 Cranberry Springs Drive, Cranberry Township, PA. Here's why I said, do you want to hear it? Because the code is 16066.
Gotta love it.
They made that up for that, but you know what? It fits. It works. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. The Lemieux UPMC complex couldn't be in a more perfect area. Mm-hmm. Good old 7 fields. My boss actually just had a procedure done there. So it is more than just hockey, obviously. We all know this. Mm-hmm. But yeah, welcome back to hockey season. The rookies are here. The professionals are here too, but in a less regimented fashion. Mm-hmm. It'll be fun. It'll be interesting.
I've never been inside that building. That ends next week. I will be inside that building both Friday and Saturday for Pittsburgh Penguins practices, as long as they're scheduled. The schedule for training camp hasn't come out yet, so we'll have
I definitely have to come up Friday. I'm working like 12 hours the next 12 days. I'll try and take some time off and get up Friday for you.
So we shall see how that pans out. But let's talk about rookie camp. We're also going to touch on Evan Rodrigues a little bit later, so stay tuned for that. And we're going to look at the Penguins' first 10 games of the season and break down how we see that going as of right now, of course, very early in mid-September. But let's start with rookie camp because it begins today. Practice starts at 10 a.m. Eastern time, like I mentioned. Saturday, they have a game for the rookie showcase against the Boston Bruins at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And this camp will run through next Tuesday before Wednesday becomes media day for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And Thursday, the big boys are on the ice as regular training camp begins for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But what we want to do here in this first segment is really tell you our player that we're keying in on at rookie camp. I know not everybody knows who these players are heading into rookie camp, but I do want us to each give a player that we're going to be watching and following throughout this entire process from today, day one of rookie camp, all the way through training camp until they most likely, inevitably, get sent down to either Wilkes-Barre or their junior team. So, Horwat, who are you keying in on?
There's so many names that everyone should be keeping an eye on. Valtteri Pustin comes to mind. Lucas Sveshkovsky comes to mind. Someone that I found shocking, I totally forgot about this entire time, and he's on the rookie camp roster again, is Josh Maniscalco. I thought he had an opportunity to really become something last season, but it fell through. He was put all the way down to the E, but he's back up here for another chance. But I'm going to zero in on Sam Poulin. I think I talked about him a lot last week. Wrote a story about how he's got a lot to prove here. He's already been recognized by the team itself as one of the key rookies in being sent to the NHLPA rookie showcase. This is his time. It's his time to really take over as one of the top prospects in this organization, like he has been for the past couple seasons. We know things fell off, but we know things kind of got back on track, and it is his turn and his time to be the leader of the prospects and make some noise in both rookie camp, because he is at rookie camp, but also in the professional camp. He's got his opportunities. He just has to take advantage of them and fulfill them and prove what he can be with this team.
I think the biggest thing when you talk about Poulin is he is the only, him and now Owen Pickering are the only first-round draft picks in that Penguins prospect system, the only first-round draft picks that will be in attendance at Penguins rookie camp.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's an honor, but it's also a responsibility, and I think Sam Poulin is well aware of that 3 years into his tenure with the Penguins organization. And last year, you really saw it ramp up where the speculation about is he a bust or is he going to be a good NHL player, it really started because of that slow start. We've talked about it ad nauseum. I don't need to get into it again, but it's really a boomer bust preseason here for Sam Poulin to either show that he's going to be a difference maker at some point this season. He doesn't have to make the team out of camp. Or if he's going to be another year of, we'll see if he can continue his upward trajectory and maybe next year, kid. Like, this is an important time for Poulin to show off what he's made of against the NHL guys. I mean, not obviously at rookie camp, but really what you're looking for at rookie camp as you're keying in on him. Is he the guy that everybody's saying, yeah, he's above and beyond a lot of the guys here. He is that much better than a lot of the guys here. And that's what you want from Sam Poulin. I don't know if I will particularly see it, because I think there's some other guys at training camp and at rookie camp that are going to look really good. Like, there's a couple of guys that I'm very excited to watch. There's only one guy I'm going to say I'm keying in on. There's also another defenseman that I'm going to keep an eye on because I'm a little curious to see what he's able to do in this situation. I really haven't paid too much attention to him before this summer, but the guy I'm going to key in on the most is, and you mentioned him already, Lukas Svedkovsky, because he's heading into his first pro season. He's a 4th rounder in the 2020 draft for the Pittsburgh Penguins. His ceiling this year, to me, is what we saw Valtteri Puustinen be able to do last season. Puustinen came into last year kind of under the radar, heading into his first pro season with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. Jesse Marshall, friend of the show from The Athletic, came onto this program and said, one of the guys you really need to watch out for this season is Valtteri Puustinen. He was killing it in Europe. He's going to kill it this year in Wilkes-Barre. He's a guy that is high offensive upside, and he's a guy that is going to make a lot of waves in the AHL. That's what Jesse Marshall said on this show last year about Puustinen. I'm saying it this year about Svedkovsky because he brings a lot of the same attributes. The guy has a really good offensive upside. He's a really good skater, and he's heading into that first pro season where he's going to get the light shined on him a little bit more than he was before with the Medicine Hat Tigers. So if he ends up doing what Puustinen did, which Puustinen led the team, or at least shared the lead for the team in points last year in the AHL, if Svedkovsky does that, that's best case scenario, and all of a sudden you have 2 of those guys that jumped right to the top of your forward leaderboard. But I'm going to be keying in on him all season long, starting, of course, in an hour and 21 minutes when he takes the ice at rookie camp. But I'm very excited to see where his progression goes. And if all goes well, if he ends up having that Puustinen first season, we're going to be talking about Svedkovsky next year as a top 5 forward prospect for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's already probably in the top 10, but really now is when he starts to make his name in professional hockey.
Yeah, now's the time for him as well. I think any of these rookies are that we know we will see eventually in the NHL, i.e. Svedkovsky, Puustinen again, maybe Philip Hollander. These are all guys that have great opportunities in this upcoming camp, and someone we should all be keeping eyes on for the future and into how they look going forward. Svedkovsky, I mean, he's another one that you think that the ceiling being the Puustinen type is absolutely perfect for him. He's only 20 years old, so we'll see how things take him. But I think he's another player, just much like when you keep going back to Puustinen, because that's a great comparison. The time is now for him to crack the NHL and show what he can do. Maybe just a game or 2, but get that call, get that opportunity, and get that game under your belt so you can continue to progress as a player in both the AHL and then eventually full-time in the NHL.
I would love to see Svedkovsky get on the first power play unit for Saturday's game. I'm not sure he will because, you got guys like Nathan Legare, guys like Sam Poulin, guys like Valtteri Puustinen, who we're always mentioning. Those guys will probably end up being on power play unit 1, but maybe give them a chance on a power play unit 2, get them like 30 seconds out there if the Penguins are able to get on the man advantage. I want to see what he's able to do in a game situation in that unit because, obviously he has great offensive upside, as we've noted, as everybody that had covered the prospect development camp back in July, I believe, noted. So I'm excited to see Svedkovsky. I'm excited to see what he does this season. This is a guy that I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not somebody that follows along with minor league hockey, I will be talking about him a lot this year. Whether it's good or bad, I will be talking about Lukas Svedkovsky a lot this year. So those are the guys that both of us are keying in on. That's the guys that we suggest you key in on. Obviously, you don't have to take that suggestion because it's just what it is. But you say Sam Poulin, I say Lukas Svedkovsky. I did want to mention a defenseman because I figured both of us would be looking at a forward. One defenseman that I don't know what he's going to be, and neither do the Penguins really. young guy, doesn't get talked about very much. Fifth rounder in the 2021 NHL draft, Isaac Beliveau. He's a 6'2" defenseman. Dude has size. Dude has a pretty good skating ability. And if you look at some of his highlights from last year, he can play pretty physical, but a lot of his game is built around being able to move the puck, being able to play in the offensive zone. And even though he had a down season last year when it comes to offensive production in the QMJHL, I'm interested to see if he bounces back on that, especially considering a lot of people had issues last season in juniors, bouncing off of the COVID season where not a lot of people played a lot. So I want to see what Beliveau is able to do in this camp. If he's able to distinguish himself in a defensive locker room that has a lot of tall guys. Like before, you used to say in the Penguins organization, oh, they're 6'2". They're going to stand out like a sore thumb on the ice. But now you look at what Brian Burke and Ron Hextall have done. They're adding those big bodies. Owen Pickering is 6'4". He might be the only guy that stands out anymore, and he's 18 years old. So seeing Beliveau get out there with that big frame, seeing if he's able to show that offensive ability, to show that skating ability and that puck handling ability, that's what I'm looking for from Beliveau. I'm not going to key in on him as much as I'm going to key in on a guy like Spetkovsky, but I want to keep an eye out for Isaac Beliveau the next couple of days.
It's a good choice, too. I'm just now realizing that this rookie camp roster also has last season's stats. So if you want to really get into it, Isaac Beliveau last season in the Q in 67 games had 38 points. I mean, that's looking positive. Also, who is this? Clay Hannes, by the way, in the W had 74 points on the blue line. Hey, man, suddenly we have all kind of people to watch once I start looking at stats, just because numbers speak sometimes. Doesn't matter the league you're in. 74 points from the blue line is quite impressive.
They have the draft there too, the draft stock. Was he drafted by the Pittsburgh Penguins at all? I didn't think so. It doesn't sound like he somebody that was familiar. So he's an undrafted free agent, or maybe somebody that was drafted.
I don't know. There's no information on it.
Well, we'll have to do some digging. That's some poor Big J journalism from us here at the tip of the iceberg. But I also wasn't expecting to talk about Clay Hannes. Is that his name?
Yeah, I got it backwards because I forgot it was last name, first name. Yeah, Clay Hannes, 21 years old, from Portland in the WHL. A left shot defenseman. Oh, forget that. Never mind. Got plenty of those.
Yeah. Also,
he's also 5'10". He's got no chance.
The last guy from the Portland Winterhawks that I remember coming to the Penguins organization was Mike Johnston. I'm sure there's one in between, but that didn't go so well. So, Clay Hannes, we apologize for not knowing who you are. We're going to keep an eye on you in the next couple of days, and we wish you all the best. But, not starting off on the right foot coming from Portland, and that's obviously a joke because the Winterhawks are a great WHL organization. Yeah. But we're going to take a quick break here. When we return, we kind of foresaw this. We kind of, I don't know why. I guess we had a feeling Evan Rodrigues has signed to a contract. We'll talk about that right after the break here on the Tip of the Iceberg podcast. Welcome back to the Tip of the Iceberg podcast, brought to you as always by InsideThePenguins.com. Berlansky here with Horwat, and we talked about him on Monday. We said we don't really think he's going to be a PTO guy. We think he's going to sign a real contract, and little did we know, about an hour later, before I could even get the full episode out, thankfully we didn't spend an entire segment talking about this, but before we could even get the episode out, Evan Rodrigues signs a 1-year, $2 million deal with the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. I think everybody was in agreement on social media, certainly from Penguins pundits, that this is a great deal for a guy like Evan Rodrigues for the Colorado Avalanche. A really nice piece to add to a team that's going to try and become the third back-to-back champion in the Stanley Cup and salary cup area, I should say.
Yeah, he signed a good deal. He signed a deal that I think we were all expecting, right?
Yeah, I mean, I said last week, I said, you know what, probably like the $2 million he was making when he first showed up in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. Mm-hmm. Perfect prediction there. The timing was a bit off, but we weren't expecting that.
Nope.
But hey, No, I knew he wasn't. We all knew he wasn't going to get a PTO. His numbers were good enough to say, hey, the man doesn't deserve to be trying out for a team. Look at these numbers. Now, as I would continue to go into, well, look closer at the numbers. Look when they happened. Steve Dangle, actually, ironically, of all people, talked about it perfectly on his podcast. He said, if you look at them thoroughly, you see that he had a white-hot couple months. And he did. He was automatic. And then it was a bunch of invisibleness for a while in the back end that I always bring up. And then he came back for a little bit in the postseason. So I do think that maybe what held it off for so long was that back half. He had to find the right deal that fit in the right team and the right situation. Because that's another thing, too, that people don't realize when it comes to signing contracts. You're not just signing a deal with a team to make money or to play with a certain team. It needs to be the right situation. You have to like the team you're going to. You have to like, maybe you don't like the city for some reason. I don't know. Maybe some vibes didn't speak to you whenever you were there visiting. You know what I mean? The situation has to be right. He has a family. You got to move the family out there. You have to figure out situations. And then if you really are moving a family out there, well, 1-year deals you can only do so much with. So now you're looking for a rental property, maybe. It's more than just signing a contract to play with a team. There is all kind of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but also this is exactly what we expected. The 1-year deal because he's not the greatest player in the world. We know that. He is going to be a little streaky still. Now at $2 million, you just hope, it's a year. You just hope he doesn't regress to not the bubble year. You hope he doesn't regress to the bubble year where it's, hey, he's healthy scratched half the time. Hey, he's only playing in one playoff game and not, you want the current Evan Rodrigues, the one where he can be white hot at times, so that's really good for your team. Plus, he can play anywhere. Wing, center. I think I touched on that. He can play literally anywhere in that lineup.
And up and down the lineup, too. He can go from fourth line to first line in a matter of seconds. We saw it with the Pittsburgh Penguins. A couple things. Obviously, when you talk about where he could live, when Tyson Barrie was traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs, he just let Nazem Kadri move right in. Now that Kadri's out of town, maybe Evan Rodrigues, we just keep siphoning through in that apartment, siphoning through NHLers. So maybe Evan Rodrigues can contact Tyson Barrie and try to get a sublet from him. But no, he's literally the definition of boom or bust. Either he booms like he did in the first half, or he busts like he did in the second half, or he booms again like he did in the playoffs. Now, the big thing about him is you mentioned he can play center, wing, fourth line, first line, all of that. Guess what? He can also do power play, penalty kill. Yeah. He can do everything. He is literally the Sean Rodrigues of the Pittsburgh Penguins last year, which is the super utility man. And something about that name in Pittsburgh. Luckily, Erod never beat the crap out of a Gatorade cooler.
None that we're aware of.
That we're aware of. They're also not, maybe he threw a Gatorade bottle, but nothing against a cooler.
Man, I forgot Sean Rodrigues existed.
I will never forget Sean Rod. But we'll move on here. Congratulations to Evan Rodrigues on getting an actual contract. We all kind of saw it coming, and it's going to be fun to watch him on that Colorado Avalanche team.
Yeah.
I think he's probably, I don't know if he'll put up the 19 or 18 goals that he did last season, but he's over a 10-goal guy. He's a guy that I think is going to end up around 15 on the year, especially for that offense in Colorado.
He's playing with that offense, playing with a decent center or winger, depending on where he lands that night. Yeah, he could put up some pretty decent numbers. He'll earn that $2 million, that's for sure.
So what we're going to do right now is play a game of hot or not. How will the Penguins begin the season looking at the first 10 games of the year? Of course, we are exactly 4 weeks from today away from the opener against the Arizona Coyotes. The Biz Bowl, as people are dubbing it, is the Penguins and the Coyotes on opening night for the Pittsburgh Penguins, October 13th, 4 weeks away from today. There's no chance, let's start here, there's no chance they lose that opener, right?
So there is, just because the Penguins are notoriously, in recent memory, not great at winning home openers. They let the Buffalo Sabres rain on their banner parade.
That was bad.
I think they let the Capitals do it in overtime.
They beat the Capitals. We went to that game. It was a 7-6 game or something.
It seemed like a downtrot, but okay, yes. I'm trying to remember years following. I only remember the banner raising nights, but that happens. But yes, it is possible we lose, but it is this specific Arizona Coyotes team. So I'm going to give us a win. Get off on the right foot for once. I'd have to look back and wonder. I'd have to actually look into that, how good or bad we are in home openers.
Last year in the home opener, the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first period just drove Marc-Andre Fleury out of the net for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Right. Forgot about that one.
So honestly, like you said, they have known to drop a dud and lay an egg from time to time in the home opener. They did it against the Sabres. That's the most notorious one that I can remember. On a banner-raising night, you lose 3-1 to the Buffalo Sabres. The only goal was scored by Evgeny Malkin. And the thing is, it's not like the Sabres shut them down. They really just did not look good at all, and that was the issue. I do think there's a 90% chance they don't lay a stinker against this Arizona Coyotes team. I mean, this is a team that, for the most part, is trying not to win this year. I mean, obviously, I don't want to bring up anything about their arena because that's out of the players' control, but when you look at that roster, there's very little that inspires competitive hockey throughout the entirety of the season. And when you look at the Penguins roster, last year, they went undermanned into Tampa Bay on a banner-raising night, as you mentioned, and they absolutely dominated the Tampa Bay Lightning. What's going to happen this year when they have Crosby, Malkin, and Gensel, knock on wood, all for that opener against the Arizona Coyotes? I think it's going to be a really fun night. And I think, especially when you consider going into the summer, people didn't know if they were going to see Crosby, Malkin, and Letang again. This will basically be the kickoff of the end era, the last dance, but it's like 6-year dance. Like that's what we're kicking off here in Pittsburgh on October 13th. I think it's going to be a fun night, and I'm hoping they get a win because that's the first game I'll have gone to in over 2 years.
Yeah, and as I'm looking through, I'm getting all of the games confused. We did lose to Buffalo in a home opener, but it wasn't the banner night. That being said, Arizona, there's not much to be hopeful about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we shall see what they're able to do there. We mentioned the Tampa Bay Lightning. Let me pull the schedule up here for those people watching us on YouTube at Inside the Penguins. Here's the calendar. Obviously, the first month is 9 games on the slate. The last one, the 10th one that we're going to talk about, is November 1st against the Boston Bruins at home. That'll be the beginning of a back-to-back. I believe Buffalo is the second half of that there. But game 2, Penguins Lightning on Saturday. That's going to be a fun one.
Gotta love Saturday night hockey against Tampa Bay Lightning. You know, that'll be a hard one. That'll be a difficult one. That team is, no matter who's on it, they're going to play hard. They're going to have Vasilevsky in net, assuming they're not playing the night before. It's early in the season for that. That'll be a difficult one. I don't know if we can handle that yet.
I don't know. When I look at this schedule, and I'll ask you for yours as well, you have the Western Canada road trip on the third week of the season.
Right away.
That's a tough draw, but at the same time, you can get it over with, which is kind of nice too. I think if you ask the players, they really don't care. But it'll be a good early road trip to get the team to be, I mean, not that the team isn't already basically all the same as last year, but they'll get to build their chemistry over that 5-game road trip starting in Columbus on October 22nd and running the whole way through Seattle 1 week later. But when I look at this, I think there's a chance that the Pittsburgh Penguins finish their first 10 games of the season with 8 wins. I think they actually start 5-0. That is my bold prediction. I think they win the first 5 games of the season. We already talked about Arizona and Tampa at home. I think they beat Montreal on the road. I think they come back and beat the Kings, and then I think they start that road trip off with a victory against Johnny G and the Columbus Blue Jackets.
I'm just trying to flip through my head here. I could see us going, what did you say?
I said 5-0 after the first 5 games, and they finish 8-2 in the first 10.
I'm around 7-3 and 8-2 as well. Maybe an overtime loss slips in there somewhere. So yeah, I like those predictions just because, yes, there are some very good teams in this little walk around here. The Tampa Bay Lightning, the Kings are up and coming still. The Columbus Blue Jackets are always an animal for us, and adding Johnny Gaudreau doesn't help. And the Oilers and Flames, where now they're great teams, but I mean the Flames got new chemistry to build up, and then the Oilers, I mean, have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but we play them well. I could see 7-3, maybe 7-2-1. I don't know about 8. 8 seems a little high, especially for early in the season.
Mhm.
5-0 also seems a little high. I love the idea, but I think it's just a little difficult to start off that white hot. But I do partially agree with the 8-2 part.
Mhm. For me, I think the big thing that I'm looking at is this is a team where Evgeny Malkin has been disrespected a good bit in media over the entire summer. So, and we're going to see it too with the NHL networks releasing their top 50 players. Is that what it is? Top 50? And you said from the looks of it, Malkin might be left out of the top 50.
If the order remains the way it is, he's not going to be in the top 50 because 50 and 41 respectively were Jack Hughes and Jack Eichel,
who were both ahead of him on the centers list. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. And listen, we don't know if Evgeny Malkin cares about that stuff, but it is bulletin board material for a guy that is very competitive in Evgeny Malkin. So I think he comes out on a house of fire. I think Sidney Crosby is always as good as Sidney Crosby is. I think when you get a healthy guys like Jason Zucker back healthy, when you get healthy guys like Dan Heinen and Kasperi Kapanen with a lot to prove, I think they're going to get off to a really good start against Arizona, and it's just going to snowball from there. Now, the big game, obviously, is Tampa Bay early, and then that back-to-back against Edmonton and Calgary on the road is tough. That's where I think losses will definitely come, is that Western Canada road trip, because it's a tough road trip to win 3 out of 4 games. I think they end up splitting it 2-2, whether that's taking one from each back-to-back or whether that's taking 2 games against Vancouver and Seattle and not having any victories in Alberta. But it's going to be a very tough start to the season for the Penguins. But I do feel like the way they're heading into the year, they're going to get off to a hot start because they know they need it. They know that, hey, we're not going to be as well rested as we are now for the entire season. Let's go out there. Let's get our best foot forward. And you saw how they started last season with all those injuries. I think they start in a similar fashion this year with everybody healthy on the lineup.
I think so too. I mean, like we mentioned, everyone's going to be healthy going into the season. I don't think there are any COVID restrictions going on this year, except for maybe if you get it, you don't play. Simple as that. But yeah, I think the Alberta swing is going to be hard. We know Seattle's not the hardest team yet, but who knows if they're going to pop off for a new season. It's a new year. Every team has changes. For all we know, Montreal could explode and be one of the best teams in the league this year. And we played them third. We're already seeing the growth of the Kings starting last season. They beat us last year, so who knows if that can continue into this year as well. It's not going to be an easy stretch to start. No game is going to be easy this year.
No.
So the more we look at these schedules, I think it is absolutely fun trying to predict stuff like this. But it is also very hard because, I mean, you forget. I mean, there's been quite a few changes this offseason. I forget who's on which team. I barely remember Johnny Gaudreau was on that team. I went into talking about Calgary without even mentioning the fact that they have a completely new lineup. So it'll be interesting to see what these new teams look like, which is pushing me to go toward the 7-3 again.
Yeah. And I think at worst, the Pittsburgh Penguins end up 5-5. They end up 500.
Yeah, because we're slow starters notoriously, but we need to pick something up somewhere, and it's got to be early on. It's important to be good early.
But the problem with 5-5, I don't think the Montreal Canadiens are going to surprise everybody. I also don't think the Arizona Coyotes are going to surprise anyone. So there's 2, to me, fairly cut and dry victories for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And at the end of all this, we mentioned it's the Boston Bruins. You look at Boston, they're heading into the season with some issues. Brad Marchand is not going to be available. This is a team that's bringing back David Krejci, bringing back Patrice Bergeron. I think Bergeron's not hurt, but Pasternak might be. I don't know. Their whole situation is weird. I think the Boston Bruins are a healthy candidate to drop out of the playoffs this season. So that's another one where the Penguins playing the Bruins at home. That'll be on TNT because every Bruins game is going to be nationally televised, and that's a Tuesday night. So I think the Penguins show out at home against the Bees. So I see at worst 5-5, at best 8-2, and a 5-0 start is the best case scenario that I can see. Obviously, going for the Penguins doesn't get much better than that, does it?
No, it doesn't. Because again, notoriously slow starters. I mean, some of those games that I looked back on when I was trying to find some information on home openers, I forgot we also lost 10-1 to Chicago one year. That wasn't at home, but damn, we're slow starters sometimes.
Yeah, that was rough.
Good old Antiniemi. Also,
I was about to say that was Antiniemi, wasn't it? And that wasn't the opener, was it?
No, it was like the day after the home opener because the NHL decided to screw us that year and give us 2 games in the first 2 days of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do remember that loss. I was in a 6 to 9 class in college, and I was watching it on my iPad, and I turned it off.
I was on my couch drinking a Blue Moon, thinking this is terrible.
Yeah, well, it was 8:00 at night, and I was in class, so I was already upset. But we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to finish off the show with our shout outs and call outs. Welcome back to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, brought to you as always by InsideThePenguins.com. We're going to finish the show off the right way, as we always do on a Thursday, with our shout-outs and call-outs. Horowitz, since you look so hyped with that little dance you did there for everybody watching on YouTube.com, let's let you lead it off, and let's start with call-outs. Let's get our bad juju out in the open to start this episode off.
Cool. Because I do want to call it. I forgot the story happened. It happened, I think, like 2 weeks ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But someone in the Duquesne neighborhood in Pittsburgh decided it would be a good idea to take their, they decided to take their snake on a walk.
Oh.
It was a python. They decided to take their albino pythons, it was like pale white, on a walk. And guess what? It got away. So, and I have heard no updates since it first got out. So there, for all I know, there could still be just a random white python just slithering around the city of Pittsburgh. Listen, I am already a little skeeved out whenever I meet people who own reptiles.
Yeah.
In general, snakes specifically. If you have one of those little bearded dragons, so be it. But snakes specifically. And listen, man, just you wanted to take it on a walk. First of all, they don't walk. Second, you wanted to take your snake on a walk? What did you think was going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. Plus, snakes, we know snakes just freak everyone out.
Yeah,
it's not the biggest snake ever, but I mean, still, it's horrifying to just see a random white snake just in public. You're just going about your day, and hey, look, there's a snake.
Mm-hmm.
I forget when these were. Were you still down here whenever there were gators in the river?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, I was.
Someone decided their pet gator got too big, and they said, "Okay, they live in water. Here's a river." Can we? Man, people are weird owning these reptiles. But yeah, don't take your snakes on walks. If you have a snake, fine, whatever. Just leave it in the cage. Maybe let it around your house. I don't know. Outside is a bad idea. And now there's a snake somewhere in the city.
I don't care how big it is. I don't care if it is a domesticated snake, which there is no such thing. I hate snakes.
Yeah.
I hate snakes. Like spiders, I can do spiders because I can just kill the spider.
I can't.
Yeah, I just smash the crap out of a spider. The snake, first of all, the things move a lot faster than you think. Mm-hmm. Second of all, anything that moves that fast but has no legs is just a spawn of Satan, which is why they're called Satan's serpents. So you know what? If you own a snake, I'm not going to be able to be friends with you. Like good on you. I hope you have a wonderful life, yes. But don't come to me looking for friendship if you own a fanged little serpent demon in your house. Like I'm never going to come visit. 2, I'm never going to really want to talk to you because I'm going to think there's something wrong with you because I absolutely hate snakes. So hearing that, I might have to change my plans. I'm not coming to Pittsburgh for another year or until that snake is brought to justice.
Fair. I will say my aunt's stepson had a snake once. Now, they kept it. They named it Monty. I remember Monty. They kept it in the cage almost at all times. Almost at all times. The only time they took it out is to like scare people, which, yeah, if you're going to have a snake, you're going to scare people. And as long as it's inside the facility of your house.
Nope.
I will say, though, watching those things eat is horrifying. Because they did it. They put the little mouse in there and said, all right, I was like 7 or 8. They said, watch this. Scarring. It was scarring. Because you see it kind of just line up. And we all know how snakes eat. It's so quick, just got it, and it's like and the whole mouse is already just wrapped up. It's mentally scarring forever. And you see a snake in public, man, do something about it.
I'm gonna go the other way.
Yeah.
I'm going to go the other way. My fiance knows if we see a snake in public, listen, I will protect you from as much as I can. But a snake, you better learn to run fast from a snake, because I am not going to stand in front of a snake.
Oh, I'm down bad when there's a bee around. So,
but there's a bee.
Yes, I'm
again things you can squash or you can kill with your hat. Like that's the big thing. My hat has killed so many insects, spiders, bees, flies, whatever. I don't care. That's small and I can kill it. A snake it's unpredictable. So I don't want to get into we're down a rabbit hole, but so are snakes. But my call out this week is Lovie Smith. Obviously, I love Lovie Smith, longtime Bears head coach. Forgot he was in the league. Got a head coaching job with the Houston Texans. And listen, good on him. Good on the Houston Texans. They're going to be a fun team to watch this year. They're one of my best bets to cover spreads when they're underdogs, because I think they're going to be in games all year long. And we saw that last Sunday. They tied the Indianapolis Colts, the odds-on favorite to win the AFC South, but they could have won. And that's why I'm calling him out. He punted on a 4th and 3 from the Indianapolis Colts 49-yard line with 20 seconds left in overtime. The Texans are not going to make the playoffs this year. I don't care what anybody says. If they make the playoffs, there's something wrong in the AFC, because there are so many much better teams. No offense to the Texans. There are so many better teams in the AFC. Like the entire AFC West should make the playoffs. That leaves one spot or whatever. But punting on 4th and 3 from the other team's side of the field. Like, I get you don't want to be like, oh, if we go for it and miss it, they have 15 seconds to go 20 yards. Challenge them to do that. 1, trust your defense a little bit. 2, what are you reserving? What are you happy with this tie for? I hate when there's ties in football to begin with, because that just makes everything unnecessarily, like, it's very easy to figure out, but it makes things unnecessarily complicated when trying to look at the standings day after day.
Yeah.
But punting on a 4th and 3 from the other team's side of the field, just because, yeah, we'll take the tie over going for the win. Like, a la Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. So what are you doing, Lovie Smith? Like, I love him as a coach. I'm excited to watch the Texans. I'm going to bet on the Texans a lot this year as underdogs to cover the spread. But that is just, that's an awful mentality. It's a Mickey Mouse mentality, if you ask me. I just wish he would have gone for it a little bit more. And you see what happened in Pittsburgh. People were going for it all the live long day, and somebody eventually won it with 4 seconds left in overtime.
Little Mike Tomlin syndrome there, just punting on probably a makeable play.
It's better than Joe Judge running a QB sneak from his own 3-yard line on 2nd down last year.
Man, football's back, and we're angry at small plays. Plus, the week 1 tie is out of the way. So, hey, we know there'll be no more ties in the NFL this year, right?
No, there probably will
be.
Yeah, probably will be, just because I hate ties.
It's fun that they're rare, and it's, damn, your sport ends in a tie? Sorry.
NHL used to do that, but
hey, they don't need more. That's why I'm saying it.
Nonetheless, let's move over to our shout-outs. Horwat, who are you praising this week? Or who made you happy this week? Let's go with that.
Let's see. How do I put this? So this all Friday and Saturday, I was kind of away from everything because I was at Four Chord Music Festival. So I want to shout out Richie Ball. If anyone from the Pittsburgh area is into music, first of all, listen to his band Eternal Boy. Secondly, he puts on this music festival every year in Pittsburgh now. It's pretty much like a non-touring Warped Tour. And you know what? That's what it felt like all day for me. Being back, just popping from one stage to another, watching live music, being around the vendors, being around some good friends, and just having a good time with live music again. It felt awesome. Mm-hmm. Richie's been doing, this was the 8th one, but COVID. So I think it's like the 9th or 10th year he's been doing it. He's had some big bands. This past year, he had Bad Religion for those old punk heads, Pennywise. Who am I missing? I saw Story of the Year. This is all, and this year was bigger. It was 2 days, not just 1 day. Mm-hmm. And he's grown it from the old Club Zoo, which was originally to Wild Things Park. It was at Highmark Stadium once. But yeah, this past year I already mentioned Bad Religion, Pennywise, Story of the Year, State Champs, Jimmy Eat World, All Time Low closed it. That was just this year. So much fun to go to every year. In the past, he had Blink on the bill, Blink 182, but that was the one that got canceled in 2020. He had The Offspring, but they dropped out the day of the show. Bands like Simple Plan. The starting line is on every year, pretty much. There's a bunch of fun stuff to it. If anyone has the time and the effort to see live music and loves the festival atmosphere as well, it's not even like a Coachella festival. It is, like I said, a one-day Warped Tour. It's a ton of fun. It doesn't go on tour, but great stuff. Richie Ball, thank you for doing this yet again, and hopefully I'll see you next year because it's so much fun going to every year, and it seemed to fly a lot better than did we all forget that When We Were Young Fest is still a thing?
I do remember you talking about that.
There has been no publicity on it since.
Yeah, I do remember you talking about that. I didn't even think it was supposed to have happened. I thought it was supposed to have already happened, and it didn't.
No, it's supposed to be like in November, I think. But yeah, big shout out to Four Chord Music Festival and Richie Ball of Eternal Boy. Keep it coming. We love it.
Never been to a music festival personally. Would like to go, but never been to one. So
start small, I'd say, like with something like Four Chord, because those big ones seem a little extra. And also, yeah, When We Were Young Fest is set for October 22nd, 23rd, and 29th.
See, there's a Penguins game that day. Yeah,
there is.
But my shout out to end this show, I'm shouting out Minkah Fitzpatrick of the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, one of their safeties, got named AFC Defensive Player of the Week for week 1 of the NFL season. 14 tackles, led the team, 1 pick six to start the game, 1 field goal block to keep the Steelers in the game at the end there. If not, they would have lost. This dude is so good and still so underrated. Like when he came out from Alabama to Miami, people are saying, oh, he's going to be great. Didn't really get along in Miami. Came to Pittsburgh, immediately made an impact, several touchdowns, several big plays, several interceptions, fumble recovery, stuff like that. And last season, people were saying, oh, okay, that was a fluke. He's just he's an okay safety. Well, he wasn't. He was still amazing last year, despite only having 2 interceptions. The problem was the Pittsburgh Steelers defense was kind of crap when it came to up the middle. There's a reason they were the 32nd ranked out of 32 teams in rush defense last year. It's because Devin Bush was bad.
Yep.
Big Bob Spillane, when he was healthy, was okay, but not great. Joe Schobert was a failed experiment. And both Tyson Alualu and Stephon Tuitt were injured, which means the middle of their defensive line was decimated. So you know what they needed Minkah Fitzpatrick to do? Step up and help stop the run. And guess what? He was probably one of their best and surefire tacklers last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But now that they have Myles Jack in there, now that Alualu is back, now that they have a guy like Larry Ogunjobi, who had a great game in week 1, able to sit there and clog up the middle and stop the run on their own, Minkah can freewheeled a little bit. And you saw how early that paid off. The second play of the game, he just snipes Joe Burrow's pass, takes it all the way to the house, and takes that double bird from Jamar Chase and just says, guess what? We'll take the dub. You take those L's, and we'll see you guys in week 12.
PFF did not rate him well. Didn't they rate him outside of the top 10, and yet he was AFC Defensive Player of the Week? PFF's a joke. But yeah, big ups to Minkah Fitzpatrick. Probably one of the most underrated defenders on our team because he has to always sit behind Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, by the way. Get well soon, TJ Watt. And hey, how's Devin Bush looking?
He looked good on Sunday. So we'll
love it. This defense is still scary, but you know what? At least Minkah's doing great. You're right. It's good that he is able to free roam a little bit more. He is able to be a safety a little bit more.
Yeah.
And man, Joe Shiesty. TJ Watt does not like that guy. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, there's a lot of extracurriculars between TJ Watt and Joe Burrow. Like there's always extracurriculars, hand fighting, stuff like that. But TJ Watt just happens to find himself alone next to Joe Burrow a lot. And Joe Burrow usually doesn't end up on his feet.
There's something a little extra there. Like TJ Watt might not like quarterbacks, but there's something a little extra with TJ Watt because, I mean, there was the random, like, last season, I think it was, where he just kind of tossed him around, throwing him to the ground way after the whistle. And I noticed him, that looks familiar. And I noticed him last week at one point just staring him down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a little something extra between TJ Watt and Joe Burrow, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. Somebody's going to have to ask him that question, but nonetheless, I also think the schedule makers want to make things very interesting this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, starting with 3 rivalry games right off the bat, because at Cincinnati, who absolutely blew their doors off both games last year.
Mm-hmm.
So the Steelers start at Cincinnati, at home against the New England Patriots, where even though Tom Brady's not there,
it's bad.
It's still a rivalry.
Yeah.
You know, this is the first time since 1998 that Ben Roethlisberger or Tom Brady is not playing in a game between these two teams. It was Drew Bledsoe and Cordell Stewart the last time that these two teams played without either of those two guys in their lineup.
Icons.
And then next week is the Cleveland Browns. So you just 3 rivalry games to start the year. And then I think they play the Jets. So not a rivalry, not a great team. We'll see if Zach Wilson's there, if it's Joe Flacco again. And then the Steelers have a really, really tough schedule. Isn't it? It's like Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Miami, just a bunch of really good teams that we'll see how that goes. They might play the Chiefs or somebody from the AFC West in that little stint there, but it's going to be an interesting season for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Maybe they come out on top.
Maybe they do. And if they don't, guess what? Penguin season starts today.
It does. We're all good, ladies and gentlemen.
We have 42 minutes till the start of practice. Obviously, we won't be there today. Horwat might be there tomorrow, so give him a follow on Twitter at NickHorwat41 to get some updates from rookie camp tomorrow. And then next week, we'll let you know when we're there, and you can follow our socials to get updates from the actual preliminary training camp starting next Thursday. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast. We'll be back next week. Have a great weekend, Pens fans.